In this video, we're going to go over how to play the crawl mode. The crawl mode in Middara is a more fast-paced version of the game that gets right into killing monsters, getting loot, and leveling up. Where the adventure mode takes the players through an elaborate choose-your-own-adventure style story with decisions to be made and ramifications based on those decisions, the crawl mode offers an alternative for players who would rather just dive right in and kill stuff. The crawl mode is more akin to your typical dungeon crawler and has its own book separate from the adventure book called the crawl book. To get started, each player will choose an adventurer to play. In the crawl mode, players will be able to choose any adventurer that they own, including promotional figures. If you don't own any promotional figures or figures from other Middara products, Middara Unintentional Malum Act 1 will only have 4 adventures available at first. Meaning, without playing through the adventure mode, players won't have many options to choose from when selecting their adventurers. Middara is intended to have players unlock all the additional available adventurers by playing through the adventure mode first. But we've given players that don't care about spoilers the option to just bust open their hidden decks and play any adventures they'd like. I mean, you bought the game, it's yours, do what you want. Oh, and as a special note, keep in mind that some figures that can be played as adventurers unlocked to be played in the crawl mode might never actually be played as adventurers in the adventure mode. Sometimes we just decided to dual purpose our figures because we thought it'd be fun. The rules on where to find these hidden adventurers are located on the first page of the crawl book. Just so we don't spoil anyone here, we'll just leave it at that. For those who want or don't care, you'll have to take your red revealer to the book and see for yourself. Once players have chosen what adventures they'd like to play, and after reading a brief narrative to get themselves immersed into the world, they will be able to choose a scenario. Scenarios are categorized into 5 different ranks based on their difficulty and loot level. In addition, depending on which rank players choose to play, they'll find that the amount of disciplines and items they start with increases. In other words, a higher ranked scenario will mean a higher level of play. While players may choose any scenario to start with, regardless of rank, we recommend starting the crawl mode by playing the rank 1 scenario. Oh, and as a small but very important note, many scenarios will be more than one encounter, with each encounter taking about an hour to finish. This means that even though our base game has only 5 scenarios, it has many more encounters. Since the amount of encounters can change depending on player performance and mechanical choices, we decided not to put an estimated length on each scenario. But it's fair to say that any given scenario will likely take somewhere around 3 to 4 hours to complete, with more than one opportunity to stop your game for a session and return later. Alrighty, so to get started, after choosing adventurers and a scenario, players will follow the instructions for the scenario's encounter setup and gear out their adventurers. In this example, we'll use the only rank 1 scenario included in the base game, Cave-Sickle Fumigation. At this point, the players will follow the directions listed below the chosen scenario. First, there is more narrative detailing the story behind the chosen scenario. Below the badass artwork, you'll find the setup and conclusion. The conclusion section of the scenario is only ever read when an encounter win or lose condition reward specifically tells you to read it. Otherwise, you can just ignore this section for now. The setup section is what matters when starting. This section will show how much gold the players will split amongst the party to purchase items and how much XP each adventurer has to spend on disciplines. The available items for purchase are listed under the Shop and Train heading. The players will then take some time spending gold on items and XP learning disciplines with the gold and XP they've been given according to the scenario's setup. Be sure to note down on your adventure sheet any excess gold and XP left over after the Shop and Train phase. These will be spent later on during future Shop and Train phases during the scenario. Once everyone has purchased items and disciplines, you'll continue to the instructed page to get started. In this example, Cave-Sickle Fumigation says to continue to Sickle Bombing Expedition. The broad rules of playing encounters are the same in both the adventure mode and crawl mode. However, we'll go over how the crawl book is navigated. In the crawl mode, progression will be much faster than its adventure mode counterpart. Players will find loot quicker, get geared up faster, and gain XP quickly and in different ways. During the crawl mode, players will be able to spend all of their newfound gold and XP earned during an encounter by revealing a reward that specifies that they may shop and train. This represents narrative downtime, or if I'm forced to forge the narrative, some seedy merchant and ability master sitting in the corner of a dangerous dungeon, strangely offering goods. Regardless, usually this chance to spend gold and XP will happen at the end of an encounter. So, for example, if the players reach a win condition of the encounter Sickle Bombing Expedition, they'd bust out the red revealer and read the reward of the corresponding encounter's win condition that you reached. In this example, the primary win condition reward specifies that the players get another shop and train phase before continuing to the next encounter called Too Many Sickles. When instructed to shop and train, players will then be able to spend XP and gold according to the rules listed on their initial scenario setup page. So that's the basics of how the crawl mode works. But before we move on, let's go over some quick important notes. First, the base game of Middara Unintentional Malum Act 1 only includes 5 different scenarios. However, future product and even free content we give away online will expand these options, including additional scenarios of each rank. As the game progresses and higher power levels emerge, higher rank scenarios will come with it. Second, for those of you who want some continuity, but also don't want the epic length and narrative of the adventure mode, we've also included a special variant of the crawl mode called the Epic Crawl variant. In this variant, players start from any rank 1 scenario they own and work their way up to any rank 5 scenario they own. This mode allows players to play through 5 different scenarios all linked together. Since each scenario can be anywhere between 1 and 4 hours, we recommend playing the Epic Crawl mode variant over 5 different sessions with the same group of friends. In this mode, the rules are the same, only you have to start at a rank 1 scenario. Then when you complete it, you would set up and play a rank 2 scenario, and then rank 3, and so on. Once a scenario is successfully completed by reaching a conclusion, players keep all the items, XP, and gold they've earned thus far, and will move on to the next scenario. If they're ever defeated or lose an encounter, your party is narratively killed and you must start over from the beginning. So I guess it's pretty roguelike. Players may then try again if they'd like to, or perhaps they can just take the night off and try again next weekend. One thing to note about the Epic Crawl variant is that players are not allowed to play a scenario of the same rank or a lower rank when moving forward. So players, for example, they have to choose a rank 2 scenario after finishing a rank 1 scenario, but if you owned a bunch of different rank 2 scenarios, you could choose any rank 2 scenario you own. Lastly, we wanted to say that the crawl mode isn't mutually exclusive from the adventure mode. For groups who choose to play the adventure mode, they may still find that the crawl mode can provide them with some use. Since you never play an encounter twice in the adventure mode, the stakes can be quite high. We've designed Middara's adventure mode to continue even when the players lose an encounter, at least in most cases. So, of course, you can, actually be killed in the story and it'll end if you reach some horrific end or whatever. But mechanically, what this means is that players are meant to be stuck with the outcome of their performance and choices. So the crawl mode ended up serving many of our playtesters as a training ground to test out builds at different progressions of the game. For example, your gaming group may want to experiment with all the sweet rare gear in the game and hop right into a rank 5 scenario, or maybe you just want to try out different builds before starting the campaign. In addition, alongside the 2 and 3 player variants provided for free online, the crawl mode allowed us to play Middara even when a playtester that was part of our campaign couldn't make it for the night. Cool, that's it. So much shorter than the component overview. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.